Hi, welcome to Real Film Snobs. I'm Brian Michael.
That makes me Angela Yeager. This week we have a special episode for you. Every week is special, I suppose, in isolation. But this one we have an episode called "Fun for the Whole Family." So these are films that are appropriate for all ages, or at least you might be able to watch them with the kids or with grandma, grandpa, someone who's just maybe a little bit not into super shocking or violent or upsetting films right now. Just something nice to soothe the soul in these troubled times. So we'll start off with my first pick, which is The Kid from 1932 by Charles Chaplin. And I wanted to put a Chaplin movie on here because many of his I think are appropriate for all ages. But this one in particular, I think, is great for all ages. I think this is one of Chaplin's, early full-length features. Of course, he did many shorts before this, but this is where he really came into his own as a filmmaker and cemented all the typical Chaplin things we have. We have the humor, of course, and then also, in a lot of Chaplin films, we have the kind of melancholy and a little bit of sweetness with the child in this case that he bonds with. And I know you love this film as well, Brian.
Yeah, Chaplin is, Chaplin's timeless. Really, you can watch it at any age. With my kids, my niece and nephews, when I was, had them over the weekends when they were just little. We watched a lot of Chaplin movies, or any, Fatty Arbuckle or Buster Keaton. But Chaplin is really the more sentimental one. He's the one who wants to be loved, and there's nothing wrong with that. I still say The City Lights is one of the greatest endings of all time, perhaps maybe the greatest ending of all time. But yeah, this one's a lot of fun. There's a lot of action. It's enough to pull everybody in. And if you're watching it with grandma, maybe she knew Charlie Chaplin. I don't know.
Well,
It's fun for
very
the
old grandma.
yeah, I know. I'm trying to think like, well, no, it'd be really old now. Oof. But yeah, that's one of the nice things about this is that this is just films that the whole family kind of enjoyed. Since we are spending a lot of time close to one another, you might as well sit in front of a television and everybody be quiet and watch what's on the screen. But it's got to be something that's going to be able to entertain everyone. And so this is certainly, yeah, I didn't close my curtains and there goes the dog. But yeah, Charlie Chaplin is always an easy, safe bet. This is a really wonderful one. I was kind of envious when I saw you pick this one because I had kind of already had in my mind what I wanted to do. But once I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, she got me. That's a really good pick.
Well, I actually thought of you when I picked this because I remember when your kids, I call it your kids, but your nephews and niece were little, you used to watch Buster Keaton and Chaplin films with them. And I thought about picking a Buster Keaton one, but for some reason this one just seemed like the right one for the all ages type of bracket that we were looking at for this
Well, it's
episode.
a little easier for kids to understand Chaplin because he emotes, whereas Buster Keaton, pretty much has
The
the
stone
stone
face,
face.
yeah.
So it's a little easier for kids to kind of understand the emotions that are being emoted, certainly by Chaplin, because his face actually moves. And if you don't get this reference, you need to be watching the show a little bit more and do your research because that's not an uncommon comment there. So move on to mine. Okay, so mine is from 1970. It's The Phantom Tollbooth, directed by Chuck Jones, Abe Levitow, as well as Dave Monahan. And I never get to say this on the show, but I read the book as a kid. It's a thick book, and it took me forever.
Brian owns
There's not a
books. Look,
song
everyone.
in this book to get through. Oh, it smells old, like a book. Ugh. CDs don't smell that way. Um, and this tells the story of a young boy named Milo. So you could tell it was set in the 60s and the 50s. And he's really? And he's a rather lethargic young boy until a phantom toll booth arrives as a gift in his house. And what this phantom toll booth does is it transports him to another land. And what's really cool in the movie is it's live action until he takes that transformation into the phantom toll booth where it becomes animated. And of course, he meets Talk, who is a watchdog, which is pictured here on the front there, as all watchdogs should be named Talk. And it just shows the different adventures that he has through this land of numbers and letters, which is really interesting because one side values numbers because how can you tell how many you have, how great things are with unless you can count them. And the other one has words because how would you know how great things are without the words great, wonderful, spontaneous. And so it's a really great way to expand your horizons in terms of your vocabulary, which I really struggled with as a kid. And I liked the movie. I was a little disappointed because it didn't have the energy that I wished it would have had. It is a Chuck Jones movie. Those movies tend to be a little sterile. At times, there's a little bit of empty spaces. They don't, not that it has to do everything to, to keep you in contact with the movie, but it always feels it always feels like it's held back just a little bit. He's always a little more subdued, other than, some of the other animators that work with Warner Brothers. But I was really happy to see this one. It was on the Criterion. I really wanted an excuse to be able to review the movie and to finally see the movie, because I'd read the book so long ago. I had been looking for this movie for a really long time, so it finally popped up, and I was glad to have seen it, and I enjoyed it.
How close is it to the book? I'm curious, since I have actually not read the book.
Oh, really?
I know.
These are what movies are based on, I've been told. From what I remember, yeah, holding to it pretty darn good. I mean, it's been a few decades since I've read the book.
Oh, okay.
Read it as
Well, I just watched the movie this last week or so before it left. I think it left Criterion, but I did watch it, and I really liked the visuals. I thought the animation style. I mean, of course, it reminded me of other things from that era, that style of animation, but I really liked it. It was funny because I was watching it virtually with a friend, and he pointed out that the kid who plays Milo is the kid from the Munsters, because I kept looking at the kid like, why does he look so familiar? He's a very popular children's actor at the time. And but I think the film felt a little slow at times, so I actually took me 2 sittings to get through it, because of all the, if you're not a really little kid, some of all the like teachy moments of like numbers, letters can get a little bit slow. So it didn't move along at the pace we're used to from modern, well, I wouldn't even just say modern animated films, maybe Disney, I don't know, but like you said, it kind of seemed to plod along at times. But the visuals I thought were really great, and I love movies that create like their own little world. So I liked this idea of this, he goes into this toll booth and then he's transported.
This one could be better. It could be remade, and I would like to have seen that, because I thought it was such a cool book. Not that I call for that too much on the show, but yeah, a remake would have been, like, see something reimagined with that. Can you imagine, like, Pixar would be able to do something with this? Would be a lot.
I actually just had the thought I could see Wes Anderson doing this. I know, yeah, that's not what you wanted to hear, but I could sort of see it almost with all the quirky characters.
Which one would Ray Fiennes play?
Okay. But yeah, I could see it though. But yeah, so fun one if you can find it. I'm not sure where, now that I think it's left the Criterion channel, so I'm not sure where you can find it. So
you know better than I do. You stress about that, leaving in 30 days.
I know, but maybe it'll come back. So yeah, it is a kind of a difficult one to find. And I think is it the only feature film Chuck Jones directed himself, maybe?
I think so. Well, it kind of depends on what you consider a movie and who. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, well, he was an animator is what he's more known for. But anyway, okay, so we'll move on to my next pick, which is the Peanut Butter Falcon from 2019. And this one is definitely not one that would be for younger kids. So I will put that out there. I think it's actually a PG-13 film, but older kids. I didn't really realize that, because when I was watching it, I was like, as an adult, I was like, it's so heartwarming, and then I realized, oh, there is some cursing and some other things in it. This one is about a young man who has Down syndrome, who escapes from his residential facility and goes on the road with an outlaw, basically, a guy who's running from the law, played by Shia LaBeouf. And Dakota Johnson is the woman who works at the residential facility who's trying to track him down. And one of the things I loved about this film, and I heard about it a lot from the disability community, is that someone with a disability in real life actually plays the actor. So it's not someone pretending to have a disability. The young man in the film actually has Down syndrome, and he is a fully realized character who has his own aspirations. And the reason it's called the Peanut Butter Falcon is he's obsessed with professional wrestling. And so one of the parts of their road journey is going to try to find his favorite professional wrestler, because he wants to learn how to do it too. I thought this film, again, this one's set in the South, that they travel down into Florida, And I know that Shia LaBeouf has unfortunately come across some troubles again, but he's actually really fantastic in this movie and has a great rapport with the other young actor, the young man who plays, who has Down syndrome, and Dakota Johnson, who I've never been a huge fan of. Everyone made a big stink about her when she came out with the 50 Shades of Grey. You know, she's really actually quite good in this as well. So this was one that I think kind of fell, it was actually kind of a sleeper hit. It did really well in theaters and somehow I missed it. And so now it's available on multiple streaming services. So I just really highly recommend it. And it is a feel good movie.
It was during the LaBeoufissance that happened a year or so ago, where he was in several acclaimed films. The one about his life is the other one I'm trying.
Honeyboy was the same time period as this one, yeah. And it's too bad because they're both really good films.
Yeah, I wish they would have had them spaced out a little bit, because there was times I kept hearing about this one, and then when I saw that one, I thought, well, wait a minute, this isn't the same thing. So they kind of cross-homogenized a little bit too much with that one. And I know that he showed up on different award shows with that actor several different times. I almost want to say it was the Academy Awards, but I think it was the Golden Globes. I don't know. They all look alike the same to me in terms of the award shows. They're, it's all gold. But yeah, I know, and I know you asked me to see this one, and I didn't have it. I just hadn't gotten around to it yet. It's on my list because I did want to see this movie because I'd heard so much about it. And it actually was in theaters for a while here in Salem, and then a second run in theater, which sadly is closed now for some time as well. So I mean, there was plenty of opportunities to see this film, and I even think it's on Hulu for a while. And it's just one of those movies you kind of chase around, and eventually I'll get to, and then I'll.
I do think it's one you would enjoy, and it's one you could watch with your mother. So there's definitely nothing that would be upsetting, I think, to watch with your family. So nothing that's going to be weird that you're sitting next to mom or grandma watching it. You know, for those who get surprised by a romance scene in a film, and you're like, oh, great, I'm glad I watched this with my family. So we've had that happen many times on Real Film Snobs. This one is one I think you could easily watch with the family and have a good time.
Yeah, I'm tired of watching sex scenes with my mom.
Yeah.
Which will be the title of my autobiography. So my next pick was a movie that, another one that kind of slipped between our fingers here whenever we're scheduling things, is How to Train Your Dragon: The Hidden World from 2019. Quietly, this trilogy, and I hope it stays that way, because this ended the trilogy on a very nice note. A very successful films of the first one as well as the second one. The third one I didn't think has made as much money as, so maybe a little keep it at that. Even though there's a television show and a bunch of things that all my streaming services keep telling me to watch. Toothless, the dragon, who we thought was the last of his kind, actually finds a female. And so with the movie, they're trying to find a way to, well, really to hook up the two dragons, and for Toothless to find a girlfriend. And of course, then along the way, they find someone who's evil and who tries to trap all of the dragons, and they have to be able to fight and find a way to find the hidden world to hide all of the dragons. And what I really enjoy about this film series, which are the first two are so very strong. This one I thought was very good, not as strong as the first two. It's really hard to follow those two, especially that amazing second one. The animation in this series is fun and fantastic. And each dragon has its own personality and style and look, as well as all the Vikings that ride them. It's a weird sentence to say out loud. And I really enjoyed that, and there's the voice work, Craig Ferguson and Jay Duchel do a great job as well, and Kate Blanchett. And so I really enjoyed this series, and I was excited to use this as an excuse to finally watch the third one, because again, it had been on my streaming services, and so I sat and watched this with my mom, who understood most of everything that was going on, but just thought it was rather silly. But I enjoyed this movie. The child at heart, really enjoys that type of, feel-good movie that it is, and did a really nice job of wrapping up a trilogy. And so you do see a lot of trilogies anymore, and a lot of times it's hard for those to be completed appropriately and in a way that is very satisfying. This one has a little time jump, and you get to see the characters then as adults with their own children. And I got a little teary. It was pretty sweet, and a really nice, touching moment. I really enjoyed this series. So if you haven't seen all of them, definitely check them out. You will not be disappointed. That first one especially was such a big, huge hit that really took everybody by surprise. I remember I saw it in the second run theater and was surprised by how really good this movie was, and why isn't anyone talking about it? And it made a ton of money, so people were talking about it.
Yeah, you always liked the series, I think, more than me. Although I will say that a lot of all my friends with little ones and my nephews, they all love this series. And so I think it's very popular. And I think there's the character of Toothless has become, they sure stuffed animals and people just love that character. So having a whole other story where it just follows him off as he tries to hook up is maybe a nice way to end the series. So maybe not one that all adults would enjoy. You said your mother wasn't super excited about it, but those who are young at heart.
Rather silly, she finds to
Yeah.
be. When it's animated, sometimes she just does.
Yeah. There's
Speaking of
cartoons, as
Wall-E,
my mom calls them, instead of animated films, cartoons. So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, my mom didn't like Wall-E, and I was like, oh, so you'll be sleeping on the front porch tonight. That's great.
oh, Wall-E, now that's different because that's up there with the classic status, I
know.
think. Okay, so we'll move on to my last pick, which is Meet Me in St. Louis. And this one is Vincent Minnelli's masterpiece with Judy Garland. This is, I feel like, one we've talked about on the show before, but to me, the holidays, and I think this is airing during the holidays, that this is the quintessential holiday film in some ways, and including the melancholy of Judy Garland's, fantastic performance of singing Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas. Which always makes me cry every single time I see that scene, and the fantastic element of the family and the changing of the times as they watch as things are starting to change for their lives. So it has a lot of those kind of bittersweet elements that I love in a good holiday movie, but also is something I think all ages can enjoy together with fantastic acting and cinematography.
Yeah, the look of this movie is just absolutely amazing. Vincent Minnelli, has really become a director the last few years that I have really sought out a lot of his work and really have found that he's kind of underrated. Certainly I'll mention again the Andrew Saris book. They're kind of underrated, a little low in my opinion. I really think that the guy is a really solid filmmaker, and if I put you in the Michael Curtiz zone, sometimes that ain't the worst thing in the world, y'all. This is a very sentimental film. It was something that played on Channel 12 every time when I was a kid. And as a young gay boy, I stayed away from it. And it wasn't until, gosh, I think I saw it like 3 or 4 years ago for the first time, because it was just like one of those movies that, everyone loves. And you're like, yada, 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 yeah, White Christmas, yada, 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 yada. And this is the horrible thing is we're going to move. And it's like, oh no, I did that a lot when I was a kid. Suck it up. But it is a really beautiful movie. That house, how you can have that many people in one house, that small of a house is insane.
And the trolley scene, and it's just a very warm and cozy film.
Even though it's snowing outside, this is a very warm, endearing, comforting film that, honestly, I probably will watch it today. And there's a lot of great scenes, great songs, memorable songs that you can sing. Bang, bang, bang,
trolley, yeah.
Yeah, it is really beautiful. It's but the look of it is what I always think of. Those amazing outfits, Judy Garland, and the look and the songs, and it's just it'll warm your heart. If you haven't seen it, there is a reason why this one is a classic. It's not one of those other ones. This is something that really deserves to be seen. It's the perfect time to watch it. Certainly, if you haven't seen it, it'll become one of those movies you can watch once a year.
It stands the test of time. And I always get a little bit teary-eyed watching it now because I think we all went and saw it as a group at the Elsinore, back when the Elsinore was still open here in Salem on the big screen. And I have a great memory of that. I wasn't seeing, it was not my first time seeing it at that point, but it was really magical to see this movie on the big screen with a crowd of people. So maybe someday we'll do that again. Who knows?
Was I in that group?
I think so. Yeah. I remember Victoria was there too. So
okay. Maybe that was the time I seen it. Geico commercials make me cry right now, Angela. So really, that's not a hard one.
Okay, yeah.
Did you know you can save 15%? So
you're getting emotional just talking about that Geico.
So we'll move on to my next pick, which is actually from this year. Right when things hit, there was a movie. Pixar had a movie in the theaters, Onward, that had opened up to a pretty decent numbers, but people were trying to stay inside. And so this movie made some money. They put it on Disney Plus because theaters are closed down. And I felt really bad for this mom. I mean, there's a lot of things, obviously, that were really sad. But the Pixar films, this was an original Pixar movie that, where they've been making a bunch of sequels. And so they made an original film. And I was really kind of mad that this one kind of missed the hoopla that it really deserves. And it's kind of forgotten at this point in time. But yeah, it came out earlier this year. It's a story of two elven brothers who embark on a quest to bring their father back for one day. And which sounds really weird to say out loud again, but this is one of those Pixar movies that just find new and funny ways and unique and creative ways to do something. And it was stuck up to me was that when they're able to bring some of their father back, the bottom half, so his legs and his feet, and so sometimes he's able to communicate to them what he wants to say with his feet. And the animation, of course, is absolutely amazing. They do create a magical world that no longer has magic, but had magic because of modern science and everything. Magic kind of disappeared. And at the very end of this movie, not to give everything away, there's a dragon that's created from a school building that just floored me. And my jaw hit the ground. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And at the end, of course, there's a very emotional thing because we're dealing with the loss of a parent. But there's a twist ending on it and what happened. And I thought that was really touching and quite beautiful. And so it's available on Disney Plus. So if you like The Mandalorian, you can also watch it. It's a different channel on the Disney Plus. Like Angela knows what I'm talking about. But no, she doesn't know what The Mandalorian is.
I do know what it is, actually, but I don't have that channel, which reminds me, I did not get to see this movie because I tried. It's only available on that channel that I shall not say, but I tried to get it on Netflix DVD because it is available in there, but I didn't turn my movies around fast enough. So I did not get to see this in the theater or because I think I was already doing stay at home when this came out in theaters. And then, I actually did really want to see it because I love anything Pixar does, and especially something original that's not Cars Part 4 or whatever, so I always look forward.
I couldn't give you my password or my sister's password that I use for it.
Yeah. Well, I know, I didn't figure you would want to do that. So, but I didn't get to see it in time for the show. But then I just found out, oh, it's on its way. I'm like, it's sort of like with you and Advise and Consent. I'm going to get it next week. So I'll probably watch it though still because I think I've heard it's gotten good reviews.
It's a Pixar movie, so you kind of have to. I mean, we're completists and they do a great job. And it's an original story, which was so nice to see after seeing so many darn sequels, which one of my picks was today. But this one was a lot of fun. Tom Holland and Chris Pratt do the voice work. Those are superheroes. It's Star-Lord and Spider-Man. And they do a really good job. Actually, they did a really good job. They picked movie stars, which I was at first was a little questionable about that, but they did a really good job. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out, and you'll have to let me know when you watch it.
Okay, I will do. So those were our fun for the whole family picks for the show. We can recommend all of them because we picked them. So I think we don't need to go over them again. I'll have those all up on our website at realfilmsnobs.com. And you can always check us out on YouTube, hit that subscribe button, and you'll be notified when new episodes are posted. You can also hear us on KMUZ Radio, watch us on CC Media in Salem, Scan TV in Silverton, or Corvallis Access Media. And as always, I'd like to thank our fantastic sponsors for supporting the show, our fantastic crew in absentia, but also to Brad for taping the show. Thank you. And Brian Hart for doing graphics, and Jason for doing our website and uploading the show and doing all the hard work that you guys do. And my fantastic co-host for being fantastic. And as always, have a great day and great movies. Thank you.